Yeah, it's extremely sad to see animals in zoos. You know, I wasn't brought up knowing what happens in zoos and that it is such a sad, depressing place. I've been to zoos, as most people have, and I never really put two and two together to think about, you know, actually why are these animals here? Why are they in basically a prison for their entire life? And it only came to me after many, many years of, you know, either being vegetarian or being interested in animal rights in a broader sense. And then when you actually start looking into zoos and making the connection, it seems obvious, but actually thinking about what they actually are, cages, then absolutely it's very distressing, not just professionally but personally as well.
How many have been born in captivity?
Well, here, going back in the last 6 years, these are our first two. Okay. But historically, I mean, I don't know.
Zoological and wildlife parks are the subject of much controversy. The issue with this is finding the middle ground from a non-biased perspective, so I set out to do just that. I visited London and Isle of Wight zoos to see the differences and similarities between famous and lesser known parks. In an interview with a zookeeper at the Isle of Wight, I asked how they ensure that animals are kept wild, active and mentally stimulant.
Mentally stimulated, this is one of the toughest parts of our jobs. Not because, you know, enrichment it can be very, very simple. However, the challenge for us is actually thinking of something different every day for them. So we do a massive variety, especially on the big cat section. Myself and Kim are very passionate about enrichment. So we do a variety of physical, mental and sensory enrichment. Quite a lot of that is feed related as well. So we'll do cardboard box, pass the parcel sort of thing. So we'll do the meat in a box and then we'll wrap that with maybe a layer of alpaca fleece. Alpaca fleece is another one of their favourite things. And we get all the fleece at the alpaca farm on the West Wight. They can't use for their products because it's not the best quality. They donate all of that to us and the cats absolutely love it. So we'll do a box, wrap it in alpaca fleece. Then we'll have another box and then we'll maybe wrap that in ram's fleece or sheep's fleece. Then we'll do another box. So it's like the cats rip open each box one by one and they enjoy whatever's inside. So really, really cool. But like I said, the main challenge for us is thinking of something different every day. And quite a lot of the things we use are actually recycled. So I actually had my tyres on my car changed recently. So the old tyres I brought in, and now that's one of Frosty, our lioness's favourite toys in the world, is one of my old car tyres. So just little things like that, really.
In order to gain insight from the opposing view, I managed to meet with the campaign coordinator of PETA UK.
I'd like to say that, you know, London Zoo, they spent a lot of money, millions in fact, on building a new gorilla enclosure at their current site. And if they have spent millions that they did on actually trying to help gorillas in the wild, they would have saved so many more of these animals. So it's just incredibly sad that they're using this to show, oh well, we've spent all this money trying to give our animals in London a much better habitat. But it's just a money-making scheme, and it really frustrates me that they're using this, veil of animal welfare, and that they're trying to help animals, when in fact they're not helping any. The opposite, in fact, they're incarcerating them for their entire lives. And then they come and say that this is helping animals. It's just incredibly depressing.
Where the Isle of Wight Zoo is much smaller than London's, the zookeepers were never far from the animals, actually seeming to have a genuine bond with them. So much so that Asha, a 17-year-old tiger, whimpered when her keeper came to say goodbye.
Is there anything you'd like to say to someone that disagrees with zoos and wildlife parks?
With zoos and wildlife parks, very controversial subject. There's quite a few activist groups and things like that out there. If I was, say, to be put in front of one now, I'd need to hear their side of the argument to be able to counter it, if you see what I mean. However, what I can say is that our animals here at the zoo have all been rescued from unfortunate circumstances. We have a lot of animals that have been abused. They were kept as pets and mistreated or not looked after properly. And what we do here is we take in them animals and we rehabilitate them back to the animals that they should be. All of the animals that we have here have not come from the wild. They're not taken away from anything. They were all born within captivity, so they don't know any different. And we like to think that the care we give here is actually 5-star, and we do absolutely spoil them. Yeah, that's all I can really think of.
The size of the enclosures is usually one of the more prominent debates.
The space that is given to our animals at the zoo here is far beyond what the legal minimum is required. We always like to make it nice and big for them. However, we often get asked by general public, oh, that's much smaller than what they would have in the wild. What you need to consider when you're saying something like that is, in the wild, a cat would have to hunt a large distance to get its food, water, shelter, mating, things like that. Whereas here, it's all in one area. So I believe that the space they have here is adequate for their needs. What we also have to remember is the age of our animals as well. I'd say we only have Simi, who is under the age of 17. All of our cats are very, very elderly, and so they're not going running off or anything like that anymore because their health doesn't allow it. So people say, oh, why don't they have a big run or things like that? They actually don't run because they're so old now. So I believe that the space is adequate for each individual that we house here at the zoo.
I asked Kirsty whether she thought films like Blackfish changed the public's outlook toward bigger animals in captivity more than smaller species.
Absolutely, it is such a good film because it just puts things very clearly from the point of view of the animal. It is shocking, but these things are standard in keeping animals in captivity. I actually read a news article recently that said elephants are going to be the next orcas because they're obviously another animal that are kept in a lot of zoos and even circuses still. Highly intelligent, and that it's really becoming quickly known that it is not acceptable to do so anymore. So I'm very much looking forward to the time that people's outrage at keeping orcas in captivity will slowly move on to other animals and then eventually all animals in entertainment. It's the only chance that the British public will ever have of seeing an elephant. But of course we don't really see a wild elephant in a zoo. You wouldn't go to a prison to learn about humans, for example. What you go and see at a zoo is animals who have gone crazy from being incarcerated. When you see these animals, you know, walking back and forth in their tiny cage, that's them going insane because they're wild animals that shouldn't be kept in such a small enclosure. You're not going to learn anything from watching animals slowly go insane in a zoo. So anyone, I encourage everywhere to just never give your money to these industries that, you know, imprison animals for their entire lives.
Whether zoological and or wildlife parks should be abolished completely is not a decision to be made lightly. Animals which have been born in captivity wouldn't survive in the wild, nor would those which have been rescued from dire situations. Also, a substantial loss in conservation funding would occur as zoos play a key part in contributing towards this worldwide. However, it appears that non-endangered species have no need to be in captivity other than to entertain the public, and this goes against what conservationists claim to do. We are left with a dilemma of whether to let these magnificent animals become extinct from poaching and loss of habitat, or to live out their lives in hospitable enclosures but never reaching their full potential. At least for now.